Here over at Subscribestar. So, defense of J.K. Rowling and her istophobicism are connected. Here's an interesting thing I noticed about the left. Now they're starting to throw their elders under the bus because the current left is running to the left so fast that they're kind of outrunning their supply lines, they're outrunning their own foundation. So to be the current new left is a continuous process of moving to the left so they can always be the leading edge of the left. So their own elders in their left-wing movement are now relative conservatives. You saw the example with J.K. Rowling was she is a left-wing feminist. I mean, if you follow her Twitter, it's like she is very firmly on the left and very much a feminist, but she's from a different generation and she still has the audacity to think that men aren't women as there that's a split between the modern feminist issue right now is those who think that men are not women, believe it or not. That is wrong think for the new further left feminists. I think they're now in the comment section of this article is fascinating because they're referring to men and women as by their genitalia as people with like certain body parts. It's like though they have they have words. Those words are called male and female and man and woman. You don't need to refer say somebody. It's somebody with this body parts. I mean, it's like childish. It's the de-evolution of childish level of language where you can't believe they're all doing this seriously. They're referring to CB4 said people with pussies. It's like women. We call those people women. So this is this continuously moving left. Like where does it end? I don't know. The thing is, you got to wonder like how they're going to define intolerance in 10 years. If being intolerant now is thinking that men aren't women, it's like where do you go from here? I mean, it's like if you accept this and you'll accept anything. Will you be a bigot if you don't allow cannibals to actually eat children before they throw the bones on a funeral pyre and a sacrifice to Lucifer? But what does it say about an organization that throws away its past so fast? I wonder if they ever stop to think if it has deeper meaning. Like it disregards the stability of the moment, that perhaps these new ideas that don't have the blessings of their elders, maybe it says something about the validity of this new movement. Maybe do any of them ever wonder if they should perhaps just slow down a little bit instead of just calling their founders a bunch of, Roman saluting Hugo Boss? And one of the comments is like they sound like teenagers and young adults because they're talking about once they get this pronoun thing settled, they can go back to saving the world. And you look at these people and they're like anywhere from 15 to 25, and they're not going to be the ones who are going to save the world. But I mean, they're the kind of people who march around with their shirts off on slut walks and think that I don't know what they think. It's like the French women who take every opportunity to take their shirts off and hold hands and march around for some reason. And you look at them, like they think they're doing something when they go on these kind of marches. And you're like, so what did you accomplish with the slut walk? We brought awareness to the situation. That translates into nothing, right? That's the translation is you did absolutely no. We're awareness, social media. Yeah, but what other than that? I mean, what did you actually do? We walked around with our shirts off, and we're chicks. Yeah, that's nothing. You did nothing. You spent a Saturday that was nothing. You painted little Ukrainian flags on your face with your shirts off, whatever, and you threw fake blood around, and it meant something to you, but like nobody knows what you're doing. There's no point to any of this. So don't get me wrong, I only say all this stuff because I know they're not listening, but it seems like they have this purity spiral going on. But fewer and fewer people are coming along for the ride. But by all means, accelerate it just to the reduction ad absurdum. I wonder if at any point they just look at the facts of the group of people who support this stuff and the people who don't, and if they start to make some connections with the concept of stability and the longevity of their movement, that perhaps all this might be a little bit of I think it was a Holland tulip bloom situation, somewhere there were people were getting very much involved in blooming flowers and trading flowers and this kind of stuff. Or if they ever look at the LGBT community and stop to wonder if maybe the LG part should take a little break from the rest of those letters of the alphabet. So this next part is the poop test, humiliation ritual, and believing absurdities, atrocities, matrix, and maybe a little bit difficult to say on YouTube. So what's going on is the Mary Sue, Kotaku, and bunch of these other just garbage tier magazines have been obsessed with J.K. Rowling and Hogwarts over the past several months because that video game came out, to the point where even their own comment section is saying that they're doing too much by bringing these articles up. Like at the drop of a hat, they will bend over backwards to bring in Hogwarts and J.K. Rowling. So why do they keep doing it? Well, how do you explain the weird energy over the trans issue where they keep pushing even to the point where they're hurting their own cause? They've lost all kinds of goodwill. They keep pushing this extremist toxic ideology, but they're losing the crowd that was supposed to go along with them. The toxic far left losing people, but has support from the media and the globalist government. It's completely astroturfed. The people don't support this stuff, but unless they stand up and start protesting, it's going to just continue. They will do whatever they think they can get away with because people have had this hands-off policy where you see like what's going on with the schools now. The libs of TikTok is bringing all that stuff out people's attention. And so did the Wooflo because they were doing stuff on Zoom calls and stuff. And so parents could finally start seeing what's going on. And they realized, like, oh, I guess we really should have been paying more closer attention these past few years. It's like, yeah, but it's more than just the past few years. They've accelerated it for sure, but it's like the past few decades. It's a slippery slope, and it's generational brainwashing. So part of what's going on is the humiliation ritual of a conquered people. They're seeing what absurdities they can get you to accept, because I think if you accept what they're trying to push right now with all this kid stuff, then the brainwashing is almost complete. If they can convince the cattle to sterilize their own children in a spiritual sacrifice to Moloch, I mean, where do you go from that? Think of the symbolism of sterilizing your offspring, breaking the branch so it will never go forth and create life. Now, they'll never have the opportunity to bond with their own child, never breastfeed new life. What's worse than that? You've brainwashed people into genociding themselves with political correctness, and to stand against it means you're Islamophobic bigot, and they'll dox you and get you fired, and the banks will kick you out, and you'll get deplatformed off all social media so you can't even defend yourself. You'll be digitally unpersoned if you speak out against people doing this to their kids. So you're intolerant. I think you're all just brainwashed cultural Marxists. That's a far-right dog whistle. I feel like you set up the structure of the argument so that anything we say, you're just going to point to it and say, oh, that's Hugo Boss. I think there's some actor just came out, and who the hell, some actor was just coming out talking about, yeah, if we don't let us do this to your kids, it's literally what, I don't know. She made some allusions to an earlier period of history, which is a weird hill for her to die on. So what happens with this issue and the younger left in general, the participation trophy generation, is you can see that they respond to issues with just an emotional response. They're not used to discussing issues as reasonable adults, like just normal, mature adults. They used to be able to discuss these issues, and like they both in the back of their mind, they always thought of themselves as ladies and gentlemen, and the things just used to be different. I mean, it wasn't Wakanda. We weren't dressed up in tuxedos and speaking in English accents while we're drinking tea and whatnot. But it wasn't this bizarre participation trophy generation group of kids who how I think of that about them, where you see the kids just start screaming at the top, and by kids I mean people who are like in their 20s and 30s, women who just start screaming at the top of their lungs when they don't get their way. That's I mean, you've never seen that in adults before. That's something that was, a kid who's like under 7 years old having that level of meltdown, temper tantrum. But you're seeing college age kids go to protests, and when they don't get their way, they just lose their freaking minds like that. I mean, that's not healthy. That's why people say they need a war. Well, I mean, as luck will have it, they're probably going to get one. So the thing is, they're not taught how to think in school. They're taught what to think. They're not given issues and asked to come up with arguments for either side. They're given the good think conclusions and asked to come up with arguments to support the teacher's specific conclusion that she had already set out that you have to accept. And your teacher's a, blue-haired, obese weirdo with a bunch of nose rings and her partner and cats. And if you're in that class and, if you're in school now and you disagree with all that kind of stuff, the BLT issues, you don't think it's real, it's just cultural Marxist propaganda, you said your teacher uses some kind of nonsense, made up pronouns or something. You go, oh no, I don't. Those don't fit my values. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in compelled speech. I don't think this is real. I think this is all just communist propaganda. It's like how is that going to float when the teachers don't present this stuff as up for debate, but it is. Everything's up for debate. You don't have to believe anyone's opinions or their belief system because that's a religion. If you're saying that you have to believe something, and then I mean the concept with the pronouns is so genius because it's compelled speech. And so you're putting the ball in a different court where you're saying you're forcing these people to obey to use your lexicon, your argument, to argue on your battlefield that if you don't use their compelled word, if they don't use the words that you put in their mouth, the compelled speech aspect of it. There's a whole psychological hurdle there where even if you're introducing somebody and somebody comes up with these pronouns, it's like it's putting you in the position of saying, "Oh yeah, I don't believe in those kind of things." It's like suddenly you're going to have an argument every time somebody brings that up, and it's like it would depend on the culture of where you were, and what kind of environment you're in, where people either accepted that or didn't accept that. But you know what I'm saying with that concept of like there's more going on with the pronoun thing than at first blush, because you're asking someone to say something that most people, if they stop to think about it, is not is not true. That someone, you believe pronouns are tied to sex, or gender is derived from sex, so there's only the two pronouns. It's an external thing. And when someone asks you to use a pronoun, they're asking you to speak this lie. It's a weird thing that's going on that I think is trying to reprogram people's brains to get them used to speaking these untruths. It's like, oh, it's just a little white lie. I'll just go along with it to get along, make things a little bit easier. Except I don't think it's a small thing. I think there's something. I think it's something bigger. And I mean, think like what hubris is of them to ask you to lie publicly. Like, you want me to, and like, you're not even supposed to have the discussion. And if you're having this discussion in school, it's like, I don't know how well that would go over if you're in a government, grammar or high school, and you just, like, your position was, or there were a few kids in class whose position was, no, we're not going to do all this kind of stuff. It's like, you're not going to call your teacher by their preferred pronouns. You're going to call them by the biologically accurate pronouns. I mean, you see the juxtaposition between a worldview like that. It's like there's no median in the middle like that. It's kind of a binary, no pun intended. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.